That is crazy. The ants and the bees last episode, top tier. Let's get it.
So when the metal hit his mug, he just sunk in place. 100K Holla, chillin' Bahamas. Come home to your crib and throw in your mama.
It's good, HollaSquad. We are the latest squad on the YouTube platform. Listen, today we are back with another reaction, and we got some tiers who in the building. Our claws OP. All right, now humans, they have a expansion pack to get claws. All right, and I done seen some people out here with some fire claws. But let's see what the natural claws look like, all right? Them Wolverine joints. Let's get it. Woo! Oh, them Jones is talons, all right?
Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
When speccing your character, it's important to choose equipment that integrates well with your chosen build's combat style and minimizes its inherent vulnerabilities. Weapons like horns and fangs are capable of inflicting massive damage, but using them in battle can leave a player vulnerable to counterattacks, and their value is mostly limited to 1v1 situations. Balancing the risk and damage potential of launching an attack is a key strategic consideration when equipping any type of weapon.
Okay.
So today we'll discuss one that comes as a standard feature on many of the most viable builds in the game: claws. Claws are versatile, close-range weapons that can be used for offense or defense without sacrificing much in terms of mobility. They do require the user to get somewhat close to an enemy to launch an attack, but due to the low end lag on most standard slashing and swiping claw strikes, these tend to be one of the safest attack options a player has access to. Unlike some other weapons, claws can usually be regenerated if damaged, allowing them to be used freely with minimal risk. Claws can be used against multiple enemies at once if the build has decent mobility, making them an excellent choice for generalists and tanks alike. They can also be specialized into a variety of secondary perks that allow the user to climb, dig, or run at extreme speeds without slipping. Claws can be optimized for piercing, slashing, or crushing damage depending on which basic type you spec into. While some members of the arthropod faction have tiny hooked claws that are used for the mobility perks alone, others equip pincher-type claws, called chelae, that can inflict massive crushing damage. The size of chelae relative to the user.
Shout out to them pinchers, because them joints taste good in some garlic butter. I ain't gonna cap. You know what I'm saying? Cajun seasoning. Yeah.
User's body varies between build classes, but they can be used in combat even on the smaller end due to the additional perk of being able to immobilize opponents. Crustacean builds like crabs and lobsters can use claws to crush or dismember prey, a devastating attack if it connects.
Oh my!
Though it can be fairly easily dodged by more mobile players. Scorpions can use their claws to inflict knockback, or as a physical barrier to keep an enemy away from their vitals. But they also enable them to use an extremely powerful grappling combination move. While an enemy is immobilized in their claws, scorpions use their flexible stingers to inflict massive piercing and venom damage.
Go ahead,
this
drop
attack
that,
is more effective than crushing alone, but the trade-off between physical power and venom potency means that some scorpions are still weak against builds that can deflect or withstand their stings. Instead of modifying entire limbs into crushing pinchers, many tetrapod builds can equip individual claws to each digit and then use them to inflict piercing or slashing damage. Reptile and mammal builds that spec into claws usually equip them to all 4 limbs, using them for combat as well as their broad array of secondary functions. Tetrapod builds in earlier expansions experimented with a variety of claw specializations, with Therizinosaurus dumping the most evolution points into the trait of any build in history. These giant curved claws were primarily used to hook and pull vegetation in order to access the best loot, but they served the secondary function of being used to attack or intimidate predators in a similar strategy to that of anteaters in the current meta. Megatherium is another example of a build that went all in on claws, but theirs were specialized to withstand the impacts of intense digging, and thus were much more powerful in combat as a result. Although
devs, I wanna give a special thank you, all right, for me not having to walk outside and see these, okay? I don't know what this is.
Megatherium were large enough to repel most enemies.
Megatherium? I don't wanna go up with no animals that got mega, you know, giga, none of that in their name.
Using intimidation alone, succeeding in a meta where Smilodon were the apex predators, meant that their claws needed to be ready for serious action when necessary. While Thenocerosaurus and Megatherium are no longer playable builds, the basic tetrapod claw specializations that they pioneered are still influential in today's meta. While some mammal variants spec into nails or hooves instead, claws are still an extremely common limb equipment choice and are used for everything from climbing and foraging to attacking enemies. Digging is a common specialization for mammal players, with builds like the armadillo and anteater leveraging their claws to access hard-to-reach resources. At the extreme end of this ability, moles use their long, thick claws and sensory modifications to complete their entire playthroughs in subterranean maps, where they can farm out invertebrate players for XP. Other mammal builds spec into lighter claws to preserve dexterity
my man is
and use
hanging,
them more
boy.
in a generalist fashion, but this means they can only inflict minor scratch damage in combat situations. The cloven hooves of even-toed ungulate builds like pigs and deer technically are claws as well, which add cutting edges to already powerful limbs and increase the damage inflicted by kicks. Mammals in the Carnivora faction all have claws, but only some are fully dependent on them to take down enemies. Felids have extremely sharp claws that retract when not in use, conserving their durability and allowing them to move silently when preparing to ambush an opponent. These claws provide additional traction and therefore movement speed when extended, but more importantly, they greatly increase both the damage and grappling capability of these felids.
Come here!
This grappling can be used in a deadly...
That joint moving like, bring that... Listen, that cheetah, that's what it was. That cheetah, you know what I'm saying, was off that Casamigos Mimosa, alright? You know what I'm saying?
Combination, where claws immobilize an opponent so the user can safely inflict lethal bite damage. They're also remarkably effective for climbing, which opens up access to areas of the map that other carnivore builds can't reach. With some of the best speed and power stats in the game, felids are absolute killing machines that use claws to decimate bird and mammal player bases. For builds which lack the ability to retract their claws, the repeated contact with the ground causes them to become dull and less useful for climbing or combat, but they do still provide solid mobility bonuses. Since bird forelimbs are modified into wings, most avian builds can only equip functional claws to their feet. Hoatzins have a unique ability to equip claws to their forelimbs that are used for climbing, but this ability is shed at higher levels in favor of flight, and all other birds are restricted to hind limb claws only. While this may seem like a limitation, members of the raptor faction use their claws and wings in conjunction to carry out some of the deadliest ambush attacks in the game. Their absolutely busted sensory abilities and mobility stats allow them to attack before an opponent can even detect their presence, impaling them with sharp talons before they have time to react and counter.
Bruh, I was out on Memorial Day and I seen some falcons, or what are those things? Hawks? What are the small ones that'll hit you like that? Bro, I seen some of them. I said, boy, I watched Tier Zoo. Y'all come out here playing with me, giving out the Minkazoids, bro.
Counterattack. However, raptor legs are relatively short and their wings can't deal much damage in their own right, which limits their ability to counterattack when an enemy launches an attack on the ground or from behind. In a major departure from the typical avian playstyle, some birds dump evolution points into their legs and feet at the expense of their flight ability. This strategy hinges on having a high enough run speed to evade most enemies, and enough power in their legs to disembowel enemies with dagger-like claws when challenged. Both types of avian builds can be viable against certain opponents, but their inability to inflict much damage with their wings leaves them vulnerable to rushdown and more powerful builds, and underscores the benefits of having claws equipped to all four limbs. Claws are an excellent weapon choice for players with the flexibility and limb lengths needed to maximize their threat range, but even on less mobile builds, they're still well worth the investment. These versatile weapons are at their best when they're used either as a safe, non-committal attack to chip away at an opponent, or as part of a grappling combination move that anchors an opponent in place while additional damage is inflicted by either teeth or stingers. As the top-tier claw users, felids are definitely OP, as they have pretty much the perfect setup to maximize the utility of their highly specialized claws. So don't expect to immediately skyrocket up the tier list the moment you spec into the claws trait, as the felid class may be a bit of an outlier. However,
yo, that feline right there might have been reincarnated into Odell Beckham, boy, I'm telling you. The reach is insane.
Claws are still a valuable addition to almost any build that can equip them, and cost very little in terms of evolution points considering how many new options and strategies they can add to a character. On the subject of claws, you may have noticed that I didn't discuss one of the game's most famous claws in this video. On that note, I have a bit of an announcement. I've been secretly working on something big, my own 3D animation studio. I want to make one of the best educational wildlife shows ever, and finally answer the types of questions that I constantly get asked. Who would win in a fight between... well, I mean, take your pick. So far, I've been limited in what I've been able to show on this channel, since many animals never meet, and are separated by either distance or time. Through the magic of 3D animation, I want to bring these confrontations to life for all of you to witness.
Oh, this is gonna be tough.
The first episode will pit one of history's most lethal claws against one of prehistory's most deadly fangs.
Saber-tooth?
I've been working super hard, and although the first episode isn't quite ready, it'll be premiering.
This is actually pretty scary though, because I seen like scientists are trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. You know what I'm saying? They using the DNA they found to, you know what I'm saying, bring them back. All right, and then they gonna bring back the saber-toothed tiger, and then they gonna bring back the freaking velociraptor. You know what I'm saying? And have them be fighting in real life, which is crazy. All right, scientists, y'all stop playing out here. Okay? Stop playing before one of these, you know what I'm saying, animals overruns the devs and gets humans out of here. They gonna patch us up, bro. We're done.
On Nebula soon, and I don't want you to miss it. Many of you know by now that Tears has been a longtime partner of Nebula, a creator-owned streaming service whose mission is to empower creators to make high-budget content that they...
All right, look, I think they're gonna shout out Nebula, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff. But look, our claws OP, for sure. For sure. If you never got scratched by claws before, you're done. Now, I didn't know they had retractable claws. There's one reason why I probably will never get pets. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, it's not that I can't live with them or they can't live with, we just can't live with each other. You know what I'm saying? The unknown, I need to be able to talk. All right? Now, if cats and dogs start having functional conversations, you know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, you poop on my carpet one more time, I'm administering the Joey Daddies. You got that? And if I hear meow or roof back, I don't know if they comprehend. All right? So once they start talking, then I'll get some pets. All right? But until then, I'm good. But y'all like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Until the next time I see y'all. Peace.
Who said we ain't bout it? Test the gang and you'll get touched. She ride it, Kawasaki, roll my blunts and keep it quiet. Money is the motive, so we keep it on our mind. You get put in the stretcher, yellow tape, so please don't try.